Yo, I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. We have a pretty interesting video for you guys. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll have a lot of good discussion out of this. But before we jump in here, I want to give a huge shout out to my boy Danneh TV. I'll make sure to drop a link to his channel down in the description below. We're going to be using a segment of his video in this video. So let's jump in here and let's take a look at what we're talking about today. So recently there was a forum post made on New World forums of a leak that supposedly an AGF dev team member leaked to this user. Before we jump into this entire thing though, I want to give a huge disclaimer that all of this could be complete nonsense. There is zero credibility to this. I do not know who this user was that posted on the forums. I have absolutely no idea, but it's going to be really fun to talk about nonetheless. So make sure, again, you go check out Danneh's channel. You can see him here with the big pog. He had a good time with this as well. His video is quite funny. It's a lot different than the one we're about to make, so make sure you go check that out. Let's look in here. Let's look and see what's going on here. So this was pulled from the Wayback Machine. Danneh pulled this off of the Wayback Machine whenever he's on stream, because AGS deleted this post as soon as it was put up. Whether or not this post is real, again, who knows? I can totally understand why they would delete it, whether or not it's real, because this user is claiming that a developer who works with the New World AGS dev team linked info to them on a paid expansion that's going to be announced during the second half of 2023. So that's the first part we're going to talk about here, like a paid expansion that's going to be released during the second half of 2023, or not released. It says it's going to be announced during the second half of 2023, which leads me to believe it's something that may be released in 2024 if this is true at all. But nonetheless, I do think it's very plausible, very likely that we'll get a paid expansion before too long, maybe even in 2023. So let's talk about what was leaked. So it says it's going to contain completely overhauled territory control. We're going to talk about that one last because I have a lot to say on that subject. We also have new arena and OPR maps, single queue, not splitting players, rotating maps like in Overwatch. I think this is highly likely to come into the game, and I think this is highly likely to come into the game in like 2023. AGS does in fact listen to their players, and a lot of players want more PvP content, myself included. I think it'd be fantastic to have a new arena and OPR maps, and I think the way to go about this would be the single queue that they're talking about here. So I don't think this is complete nonsense. I think that is probably likely to even come into the game fairly soon. Now, the next thing on here is, in my opinion, completely bogus. I think this may be what makes this complete nonsense, but we'll see. And I hope it does, because I, for one, don't want to see this come into the game, but let's see what this is here. Overhauled combat for PvE only. Adds an in-game specialization in a primary secondary weapon that allows the use of 6 skills per weapon. The UI changes back to the current combat UI when flagging for PvP. Uses a lengthy and epic quest line to unlock. So this one's pretty interesting to me, and I don't think this would come into the game. I don't think they're going to add 6 skills per weapon, and I honestly, I hope they don't. That might be an unpopular opinion. A lot of you may want more abilities. I don't. I hope they keep it 3 abilities per weapon. I really like that. I wouldn't mind seeing some additional trees with more options being added for active abilities, but I don't really enjoy like the face roll, just lots of abilities, ability spam type of combat. I really like what New World has going with the 3 abilities. It's very simple, but it's very hard to master type of situation. I really enjoy that. So I hope they don't go this route. I could see some sort of overhaul combat for PvE, but again, splitting it up into like 2 PvP trees and then having 2 PvE trees. I think something like that would be okay, but it doesn't really align with their initial vision of the game, which they always said they don't want PvE and PvP to only coexist. They want them to complement one another. And whenever you start splitting them up like that, I'm not so sure it aligns with that initial vision of the game, but we'll see. That's a very interesting one. Not sure if that one's going to happen. But nonetheless, it's in here. Then this one says event-based open world raid bosses that unlock sequentially and dynamically based on player interaction and outcomes, kind of like a TV series. I can see something like this coming to the game, and this would be quite cool. I think this would be pretty neat. Event-based open world raid bosses, and they unlock sequentially and dynamically based on the player interaction and outcomes, is pretty neat. I think that would be something fun to have coming to the game, and I can see this being something that would come into New World. I think it would fit. The next one says completely new lore tied to open world raid boss events, which I think is 100% going to come into the game. I think we already know that. I think we'll get that with the Sandworm that was already announced. We have new MSQ cinematics, rich story quests tied to the new open world raids. This also is coming in. We already know that that's going to happen. Then we have the mount system with its own profession. I think this is incredibly likely to happen in New World. We already know the mount system is confirmed. It's going to come into the game at some point in the future, and I definitely think it's going to come in with its own profession. A lot of players want that. I've heard a lot of players say they want that, and that would fit in New World. I think I personally would enjoy having a a new profession tied to the mount system in some form or fashion. So I think that's likely to happen. Swimming with its own underwater profession. This is one on here that's kind of out of left field. We haven't heard anything about swimming, and especially nothing about any underwater content. So I don't know if this is likely or if this is another one like the second one we talked about. I'm not sure. Swimming with its own underwater content. What do you guys think about that? Do you like that? Would you like to see something like that come into the game? I think a lot of people would agree swimming is something we would like to see come into the game, but underwater profession may be interesting. I don't know what that would entail. I would be open to that for sure. We'll see. Then we have crossover everything. PvP expeditions and raid groups, crossover world. I think we knew this was going to happen. This is going to happen at the end. Well, crossover everything's not going to happen at the end of 2023, but we know we're getting crossover OPRs at the end of 2023. So then maybe with a paid expansion in 2024, we would get crossover everything. They've already hinted at that. They've said that they want everything to be crossover, so we'll see how that goes. The next one is interesting. This is the one that caught Danny's attention because he is a pirate boy. If you guys don't know, it says remote islands and boat system with its own open seas, non-instanced PvP mode. This I think would be absolutely incredible. A remote island that you can sail to. You have boats, and that could tie into another profession potentially. You have open seas, non-instanced PvP modes. So we'd have like pirate fighting out there on the open seas. Sail to these islands, and then you could PvP on the islands. Maybe that is the way for them to bring in PvP zones that a lot of people want. A lot of people have been asking for. I think that would be super fun. Is it likely to come to the game? Who knows? This person thinks it is. He says that somebody in New World leaked this to him. Who knows if that's true or not, but here it is right here on the list. So we'll see if that makes it in. New zones, incredibly likely to happen in the future. So that's not a surprise. New weapons, also pretty much a given. We're going to get new weapons in the future. New expeditions we're going to get, but here's the interesting part. Some are mega expeditions that feel like mini raids. They can be done with 10 players. I think that would be really cool. That would add some spice of life to the PvE scene. So I'd be there for that one as well. Then new character creator customizations, both free and paid, which I think is likely to come into the game at some point in the future. Now let's backtrack a little bit and go back to the very first one. So completely overhauled territory control, we know is something that's getting worked on, but here's the very interesting part of this. It says faction v faction wars and risk versus reward open world PvP. I think everyone that likes to PvP could agree that we would all like to see some risk versus reward open world PvP. Some more incentives to go out there and PvP would be fantastic in the open world. I feel like New World shines a lot in open world PvP. It's super fun. The Great Cleave days were a lot of fun, and I think that risk versus reward open world PvP would be welcomed with open arms. The part that is very controversial, I think, right here is the faction versus faction wars. This part is very controversial, and I'm going to give you guys my take on this. This may not be a popular opinion, and that's okay. It's just my opinion, but I personally would not be opposed to seeing faction v faction versus the company within the faction type of wars we have going on now, because really right now when you think about it, factions don't really play a role in New World very much at all. Yes, you get some minor benefits from being in a faction, but you don't really get a lot. And a lot of people that play New World now are completely left out of the war system. And then, of course, yes, there's the argument of, well, get good, make the in-game, get good, get into a warring company, all of those things. But the facts are a lot of players don't want to do that or aren't willing to do that. And they feel segregated because they don't want to try to work their way into there. And yes, I know that argument can be made. Well, that's their fault for not doing it and all of those things. I understand. But I feel like whenever you have a system in place in a video game that you have your players gating your content, I feel like that's just bad. I don't think that's great for the game. I don't think that's going to be great for New World's growth going forward. And I think we can all agree that the undermining system is bad. There's a lot of things with territory control that just aren't good. So I personally would love completely overhauled territory control. Faction v faction is questionable, but I would not be opposed to that. Maybe some sort of ongoing long war campaign that lasts several days. Somehow also to allow the super competitive companies to still be super competitive, because there is definitely a place for that in the game, but also open it up to other players to be able to participate as well. That they're actively working on that, and they have been actively working on that for a while, but we'll see where this goes. This is a very interesting one, we'll see what happens. The faction v faction thing is a new one. Haven't heard the developers say anything about that, but of course we wouldn't, because this is leaked info. But we'll see. What do you guys think about this entire list? What do you think about faction v faction territory control? Would you be there for that? Would you like that? Do you like it how it is now? Do you think that would suck? What's your thoughts? And what's your thoughts on the rest of this list? The new arena OPR maps, overhaul combat for PvE. Would you like to see like multiple skills, more skills than just the 3? Would you like to be able to use 6 actives at a time? I wouldn't. I hope that doesn't come into the game. I would actually hate that, but we'll see. And then like event-based open world raid bosses, that's great. New lore, of course, new MSQ, mount system with its own profession. What do you guys think about that? Do you like mounts with their own profession, or do you want to see mounts like kind of like an ESO style where they're just like these ethereal mounts, you just press a button, spawn them in, and you go type of thing? Some people like that. I would like to see it with a profession. Swimming and underwater content. Do you want underwater content? I've seen a lot of games botch that up, so I don't know. I'd be open to it for sure. Crossover everything, I think everybody could agree that would be a great thing. The boat system is an interesting one to me. What do you guys think about that one? That one's crazy. So there's a lot of cool things on this list that I would be super excited to see come into the game. But again, there's no credibility to this thing. Okay, so this is just complete speculation. This was posted on the forums and then immediately deleted by AGS, so we'll see what happens with this. I have no idea. It's fun to talk about nonetheless. Let me guys know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you down there. And of course, as always, you can come check us out on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/BDLG. We're live every Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. CST. And make sure you go throw Danny Boy a follow here. This was his video. It's quite funny. I highly recommend going to watch it. He made a tweet that got deleted also, and he ties it into this forum post. Pretty funny. But anyway, that'll do it for this one, boys and girls. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next one.